And now,
ladies and gentlemen,
please fasten your seatbelts.
Welcome to PreneurCast.
Yeah, business cards being swapped, beers being drunk.
Can I say a nasty word? Can I say procrastination?
With Pete Williams and Dom Kosher.
how well did that go down?
Talk about that entire thing in a very another rant and soapbox episode if we want to.
Visit us online at PreneurMarketing.com.
Hey there.
Hey, big fella, how are you?
Good. And you?
For another week. I'm very well, mate. Very, very well, as usual.
Back and raring to go for another PreneurCast.
That's it, mate. I'm Pete Williams, and it leaves you being Dom Goucher.
Oh, man, I'm touched you remembered.
So, this week, back again for another episode. What shall we be discussing this time round, fine sir?
Well, I learnt a fair amount last week from Professor Pete's Guide to Outsourcing. This week I have another topical question for you. One of my clients has just got back from the product launch formula event, Jeff Walker's big thing. And it reminded me, being a service provider in the main, most of what I do in one way or another helps people promote products or is a product in its own right, depending on whether it's a sales video that I'm producing or whether I produce the ebooks and information product videos, etc., teaching videos for Inside. And for a long time now, I've been aware of this concept, in inverted commas, the product launch. And obviously Jeff Walker has launched for the last time, 3 or 4 times over the last 2 years, for the last time, his product launch formula product, which is an incredibly famous product. So I've always been on the periphery of this, and I've been a supplier into the chain. But I'd really like to understand, if you've got any insight into this, if you've got about the idea of a product launch and whether it's kind of for these people who just work on the internet, or whether it's applicable to all kinds of businesses. You got anything on that?
Oh, good question. Yeah, a few things. First thing is you'll probably be able to watch along and play along at home with Jeff, because I think he's just about to relaunch product launch formula as well. So that's going to be another sort of journey to sort of watch your product launch get launched. Launching your product launch formula about product launch form. Yeah, that's too many. Yeah, kind of confusing.
Yeah.
So look, let's give a bit of context to the whole product launch formula concept, I guess, for people who haven't come from the internet marketing space. Because, look, you see big products, home study courses, online digital delivered membership sites being marketed very, very heavily for a short period of time. They go on sale, then they kind of disappear again. And it's very much used in the internet marketing space, and has been done so for years, with millions of dollars worth of digital products being sold in 24 hours and stuff like that, which is very, very successful. And Jeff produced his own home study course program called Product Launch Formula, and it basically shows people how to actually launch their own product using this formula that he developed. I guess most of you probably got that from the name of the product, but that's what it's all about. And obviously it's primarily used in the internet marketing space, or it's been marketed in the internet marketing space to people to sort of apply it to their own fundamentally information-based business to be to great success. I've known a lot of people who have done a lot of money by launching a product using Jeff's product launch formula. And I actually have played around with it a little bit with some digital stuff. But actually, funnily enough, the most success I actually ever had applying Jeff's formula was, what would it have been? 18 months ago now, when I relaunched and resold the MCG. So that's kind of like my biggest success using product launch formula, was actually launching it into a marketplace where I didn't have a single email, didn't have anybody on a list I could mail and market to. I had to build that from scratch throughout the launch sequence. And it was selling a physical product that was getting shipped to people. It was the MCC Crested Carpet memorabilia frames. So, photo of the MCG, which for those of you who are overseas listening, it's Australia's version of Yankee Stadium. I was able to buy all the crested carpet that lay in the very, very famous members' pavilion dining room. Very, very ugly carpet, but it laid the floor of the members' dining room and the members' area of what was the Ponsford Stand, which was part of the MCG. This is, 10 years ago when I was 21, and made a whole bunch of publicity and exposure and obviously money off the back of selling the MCG as a series of memorabilia frames. So had all the carpet, did all that, was great, had some left over and decided to relaunch it 18 months or so ago, and actually thought, well, if I'm going to relaunch it, let's actually put Jeff's system to the test and see how good it actually is in terms of launching something to a market that is, I didn't have a list in and all that sort of stuff I mentioned before. So we can definitely kind of walk through that, and I can talk through that sequence and sort of give an example of how it works, because I think it's very applicable to a lot of other sort of stuff. We played around with it a little bit and used some of the elements of it when I originally launched Big Ears headphones. I always get the domain wrong. BigEarsHeadphones.com.au, which is a e-commerce site. We are just about to relaunch actually in the headphone space. We launched it originally to so much success we actually shut the site down, which is bizarre because we didn't have the actual systems in place to deal with the amount of product we had to ship. So we...
Oh, that sounds so internet marketing. Oh no, the server was overloaded.
Well, we actually screwed a lot of clients over, and I'm first to admit that in terms of we stuffed up their orders and shipped them the wrong goods, or didn't ship it to them and shipped their goods to somewhere else. It was just a nightmare of a logistics process, because all the e-commerce stuff we'd done prior to that was always shipped directly from our suppliers to the clients directly, which was very, very handy. But this particular suite of products, we couldn't do that. We had to actually ship ourselves, and we just didn't realise how hard logistics was. So we kind of disappointed quite a few clients, and hopefully made them all happy and made good and all that sort of stuff. But we're about to reopen the site and stuff again. So some of the stuff we applied to that as well, which was pretty cool. But none of this server overload stuff, nothing like that. It was just
Okay, I'll let you off. I know you wouldn't do that anyway.
A bunch of systems and processes we didn't have down pat, and some staff that we hired incorrectly.
So, I mean, just to go back, the idea behind a product launch, whether it's using Jeff Walker's product launch formula, trademark, insert, whatever, relaunched, not launched last time it's being done, never shown again until next year kind of product. Anyway, whether it's that or whether it is just going about bringing a new product to market in a systematic way, I mean, that's really it, isn't it? It's about bringing a new product to market or promoting a product in a systematic way for the maximum effect. That's really what we're talking about here with the product launch, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, we'll give credit where credit's due, as much as you're sort of laughing at Jeff and the whole internet marketing world of, this is the last one's going to be released and all that sort of rubbish that happens in that space. I give credit where credit's due in terms of the way Jeff put this together, because the way he describes it, I think, is probably the best way to describe it, is what a product launch formula process is, or a product launch defined in this terms is you're basically taking a sales communication, whether it be a sales letter or a pitch and things like that, and actually turning it on its side and actually breaking it up into segments. So you actually are fundamentally building up to a launch date, so to speak, where you make the product or service available. So prior to that coming out, there's obviously a sequence of events that you can manufacture and manage and produce to build up the demand, build up the desire, so when your actual product is released, people are very, very hungry for it, as opposed to saying, hey, it's available now, let's start marketing it. You're actually marketing it effectively prior to the product being available and getting that demand. Look, Apple, let's take it very much out of the internet marketing space and talk about Apple, because they do it very, very well. You see the debatable leaked images of particular iPhones coming out. Then they have obviously the actual keynote presentation they have where they actually announce the product. Then they have obviously the website, the video with Johnny Ive sitting there looking off camera with the white background, his lovely English accent talking about the aesthetics of the product and how it's the most cutting edge thing they've ever designed and blah blah blah. And then they finally have the product going to be available for sale, and they have people lining up outside around the corner camping out for 3 days. It's a very structured product launch.
Absolutely.
And it's basically taking all those elements into a system that you can basically just hit on all those hot buttons leading up to a launch of a product, whether it be a book, an iPhone, an information product, a piece of sports memorabilia, a new car coming out, whatever it might be. There's a sequence that's been done time and time again for years in every different industry, and applying that to your business and your products, whether you're a wholesaler and you've got a new wine coming out, or you are offering a brand new service to your current clients, taking this process and actually applying it through communication to a list of prospects can really help you kick off a new product very, very well.
Absolutely, and all joking aside, I am completely aware a number of my clients have kind of bought into Jeff's product, and it is an absolute blueprint of this process. There's nothing, as everyone always says, there's nothing new under the sun. You could stand back and study the last 10 years of Apple and see a pattern to the way that they launch these things, the way they build the anticipation, they build the desire for the product, they even take pre-orders, which is part of the game as well. But what Jeff's done is because we're talking about Jeff and using this as a framework to go through, I'd like, all joking aside, Jeff's done a fantastic job of documenting that process and turning into a real blueprint, a step by step. So just to be clear, I am really genuinely joking, although there are an awful lot of people who claim server melt and they're on their own.
Oh, absolutely. And look, and it's not about Jeff by any means. Jeff's probably, in our world, probably the market leader. We use that term a lot. He's probably the market leader in that sort of space. But there's plenty of other people who have produced books and content and lessons about how to launch a product. It's not just about Jeff. I think it's just the formula applies. Jeff did a great job of distilling it down to a systematic process you can just basically swipe and deploy, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things. In the world, in the circles that I operate in, Jeff is the big name for product launch. But, walk down the high street anywhere and say Jeff Walker and you'll just get a lot of blank stares. So it's not like he's the world leader at it or anything. And, yeah, there are lots of books and places that. It's the principle that's important here, that instead of just dropping a product on a shelf or sending it out to your distributors or whatever, if you go through some sort of systematic process, breaking that into a launch that builds desire, you're going to get much better returns. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, think about the movie industry. Hollywood's been doing it for years. They have the sneak peek trailer, then they have the leaked photos from the set, then they have the full trailer, then they have the stars doing interviews, then they have the red carpet event, and then they finally allow Joe Public to spend their $20 on a ticket and their $300 on a box of popcorn and go to the movies and watch the actual feature film. So, movies have been doing it for years, and it's just about working out what they do and how they do it, and then applying it to your own launch. Because, if they just open the doors to the movie and then started marketing it, it's not going to be as effective. It won't drive the demand and the conversation and that social element of it that really gets everyone hungry and wanting to go and see it straight away. So that's what you're trying to do with the launch of anything, really.
Yeah, and I picked up a key word here. You mentioned the word desire, building the desire. Because if anyone does this and does it well, whether it's a movie launch, an iPhone or other Apple product, or whatever it is, invariably, quite a lot of money changes hands between the consumer and the vendor. But the consumer very often is quite grateful for the opportunity to hand over the wad of cash.
Oh, in Apple's case, absolutely.
The queue round the store. Don't get me wrong. I'm not belittling these people that are enthusiastic about these products. Apple is an awesome product, but it's interesting to see the level of desire that can be engendered in the consumer if you do this, to the point where literally they are desperate to give you the cash. They'll pre-order the product. They'll do all these things, which out in the high street, people you would never see in a normal circumstance.
It's insane. Like during the relaunch of the MCG project that kind of came to be told, I had people emailing me, thanking me for giving them the opportunity to own a piece of the Melbourne Cricket Ground. It was just phenomenal. And look, they were generally thankful, and I was generally thankful I was able to save a piece of Australian sporting history and actually making it available. Yes, there was a profit in it and it was great, but at the same time, as being a memorabilia collector myself, I was very happy I was able to share this and have other people own a piece of Australian sporting history, and they were literally thanking me for it, which was just amazing.
Cool. So can you break this down? Can you give us some idea about what it looks like to do a product launch?
Yeah, look, what we can do, probably the best way to do it is to give it some frame, and actually we can kind of walk through how I resold the MCG at a high level, and we can kind of walk through the steps and the processes that way, so people can actually get a feel for what I did, and they can sort of hopefully use that as a bit of a framework they can apply to their own stuff if they're interested. And obviously there's other resources and Jeff's products and stuff like that if they want to delve into it that I don't sell directly, but that could be a good place to start, and we can go from there. Does that work?
Framing it and giving a real example to work through, especially one that you know so well, but one that was genuinely successful, I think is great. And I think
it's also helpful too. It's not another information product example. That's the big thing.
Yes, a real world example. I mean, this was a physical thing that had to be manufactured, that you couldn't really kind of give people a little sample of downloadable chapter 1 and all that malarkey. It was physical, big chunk of wood and glass and carpet, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, very real world. So
basically, what I did, like the key thing in a launch fundamentally is to build up a database of prospects that you can market to and help deliver, or I'll use the word manufacture, but not in a negative way, the desire that you're trying to achieve here. So what I basically did was put up a website, a web page that was simply an opt-in box. So all people could do is, when they came to the page, was watch a video of me standing outside the MCG talking about what was coming up for release in a few weeks' time. And then I drove a lot of traffic to that through banner advertising and Facebook advertising and stuff like that. So how I got the traffic to the site is not really the launch sequence part of it. That's just the traffic generation sort of stuff. So the page they landed on was me outside the MCG telling the story of how I originally came about owning all this history, all this part of the MCG, how I originally sold some of the frames, how I then went to the other memorabilia marketplace and industry in Australia, try to do some joint ventures with them to sort of help get the frames out to other people for the amount of capital I had left, and how the price points they wanted to charge for this sort of stuff was just astronomical, and I refused to sell it at that high price point, which is completely true. It just blew my mind how greedy a lot of people in that space are. So I decided to sort of, sell the last bit of carpet myself directly, decided to put it back on the market, and was going to launch the opportunity to own a piece of the MCG in a couple of weeks' time. So if you're interested in getting on the pre-release notification list and own a piece of the MCG, put your name and email address into a box here. So it was a purely old school style squeeze page, opt-in box, pre-release registration form page, whatever you want to call it, that most people kind of could imagine. So that was just the fundamental front entrance point into the launch sequence. So that's where we started, and then just spent a lot of time in the first few days driving as much targeted traffic as I could to that page through, as I said, Facebook, banner advertising, bit of AdWords, content banners on the AdWords network, and a whole bunch of other traffic generation stuff that we can talk about if you want to talk about on another episode. So that's where we started with that. And then from there was a sequence of marketing pieces that went to that list that continually got built up to actually take them along the journey of the product launch. So what was really, really cool, which and some things that were not planned at all. The very first thing I actually was able to mail to the list on was something that I didn't plan, which was just really, really cool. The MCG actually sent me a pretty nasty letter not long after the original launch of the webpage, because obviously I was pretty much plastering Australia, like every website relating to football and cricket and sport in Australia. You basically saw my banner ads for a couple of days. And I was using the trademarks of the MCG in a way that they didn't love. It's probably the nicest way of putting it. So they sent me a bit of a cease and desist letter, which was fine. Got on the phone to them, spoke through it with them, and they were very, very happy and ridiculously supportive, and have been through the whole project. They knew what I did, 10 years ago. So they were just like, hey, just change a couple of things you're doing in the way you're doing it. So that was all cool. But it gave me a great marketing piece to actually mail on to the list, because a lot of people would get that cease and desist letter and absolutely crap themselves and go, oh no, and close the whole project down. But got on the phone, was proactive, fixed it up, and then actually mailed the list on it as a way to sort of, hey, this is important, this is building up a conversation with the list. So basically wrote a letter sort of saying that, hey, thanks so much for getting involved on the pre-registration list. We've had so many people already jump on board. It's only been 3 days now, but the funny thing is I actually got a nasty letter from the MCG. So, and it went on to sort of talk about why they sent me this nasty letter and what it was all about, because I sort of spoke about the fact that the MCG is so important here in Australia. It has its own parliamentary act, and there's some rules around the act that I wasn't aware of that was why they sent me this nasty letter. So, hey, you have the opportunity of owning something so important to Australia that it has its own parliamentary act. So it was a really good sort of initial piece of content I could actually mail the list on to say, hey, this is important. And build that, proof up, that social proof of the importance of the MCG and how cool it would be to own a piece of the MCG. So that was sort of the first key thing I was able to actually drive home to this list of prospects in the first mailing.
Cool. I mean, that was quite serendipitous, really, that you'd got some story that was genuine.
Very, very lucky. That part of it wasn't planned, yeah. But I was able to sort of leverage into that. And then, and continually throughout the whole campaign, I was mentioning that how many people were actually opting in, that, hey, we've had 250 people opt in. We've now had 500 people opt in. We've now had, X amount, to really reinforce that social proof. And I was really trying to hit on all the influence factors that Robert Cialdini talks about in his book, Influence. Social proof, commitment and consistency, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you'll see throughout this. I tried to really reinforce all the way through to actually help build up that desire. Having my experience in the publicity game, I was also actually able to grab a lot of real-world media exposure for the project as well. The MCG is going back on sale. So I was kind of lucky with the angle and the story I was able to develop around it that was actually applicable to just the general media in the way I was able to position it. So I got a lot of exposure on radio and some newspaper and stuff again, which is really, really cool. So I was able to, again, reinforce that throughout the launch sequence that, hey, this is getting important. The media is grabbing hold of this and are talking about it because it's that important to own a piece of Australian sporting history. So you're lucky to be on the pre-release notification list, really reinforcing they made a good decision to get on that pre-release list, because there's a fair chance we might actually sell out of all this before it goes to general public, because I'm going to release the frames to this pre-notification list first before I get to the general public. But due to the response we've had, the number of people who have subscribed is just blowing my mind. And it got to the point where we had more subscribers than we had frames and all that sort of stuff. And was really able to play on that really, really well. That the demand is huge, so you want to act fast. That's another key thing. You want to sort of have that demand there too.
Yeah, so those are the key steps in that when you're sending out these marketing pieces. You've talked about social proof.
Yep.
So how many people are signing up? Where's the interest coming from? Is the media interested? And that kind of thing. And then you're also talking about that building up the desire as well, partially through the social proof, but also maybe saying, as you say, you've got more people on the list and you've actually got product and things like that.
Making something look limited. The more scarce something is, it's that scarcity play that Cialdini talks about as well. The more scarce something is, the more it's wanted. So if you, as you're launching a product, maybe you're launching a new wine or you're launching a new bike that's going to market, or a new headset model, whatever it might be, if you can sort of work out a way to have the very first edition be limited, so you change the label, or you do something where it's diamond encrusted or something like that, where you've only got a limited amount for the first release, that scarcity comes into play, which really helps build up the desire and get that momentum going. So that's sort of the key thing you're trying to build on very, very early.
So really, I mean, because you ragged on me last week about being a big fan of the E-Myth, well, you seem to be Mr. Influence. But the book Influence, I think, is kind of a blueprint for this part of the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
You go down that list of the influence triggers and try and include some of them in your communications, because that's what it's all about. It's about making people want the product before they can get it, yeah?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. It's all about just having that want to build up as much as you can, so when you open the door and let people come in and purchase your products, they are just running at you with their credit card and then throwing cash at you. So that's what I was trying to build on throughout this whole launch sequence. I then kind of drilled into a bit of an us versus them theme. So it's a bit of an underlying tone I tried to make throughout the whole project, where it was about what I've got available and what we're here as our little community of MCG fans are. We're trying to save the authentic Australian sporting history, and what everyone else sells in the memorabilia game is fake or not fake, definitely not fake. Possibly faked, because there is a lot of fake memorabilia out there. That's a definite fact. So and not authentic and not real. So I kind of had a couple of emails throughout the process saying, hey guys, just saw, one of them was like, hey, I saw an interesting video on YouTube, check this out. And it was a link to a video of Tiger Woods sitting at his desk for Upper Deck, just signing photo after photo after photo after photo. And I made the point that, how unauthentic is this sort of memorabilia? Not fake, not authentic in terms of fake, but it's not really genuine sports collectibles when it's just something that's been manufactured as a collectible. So really kind of hammer that point home throughout the whole process that, hey, it's us here, us real sporting fans who are going to have the opportunity to own a piece of Australian sporting history, authentic sporting history, versus everyone, all the other memorabilia dealers who wanted to rip them off by charging high prices when I tried to JV with them. But also when they're selling these high price signed photos, they're just being manufactured, they're not real, they're not authentic, to build up that desire and the positioning of my product in the marketplace. So if you can do that with your product, tell the story of why your wine is more valuable and better than the competitor's wine. Why is your particular product that you've got, why is your carpet cleaning service better? What is the process you go about compared to them? Tell that story about this new sort of degreaser that you've got coming out and how it's been tested in the Swiss Alps by, whatever it might be, to actually get that germ out a little bit better and sort of have that us versus them story and build that up into the process is really, really valuable.
Now, you mentioned story there about 7 times in the same sentence. I'm thinking story's a big thing in this. But you started with the story. You started with your video on the site. To get the sign up in the first place, you told kind of some of the backstory, some insider knowledge. Is that a big thing?
I think so, yeah. I think the community aspect, if you can sort of try and build that inner circle throughout this, if you're on a pre-release pre-release notification list, you're in that inner circle. You know stuff that no one else knows. You have access to this information. You have access to this product before the rest of the world's going to have access to it. So if you can really play on that community aspect, it's not only going to help you for the launch, it's going to help you for a long time to really build that social proof and build those 1,000 true fans that get spoken about quite a bit. Because if you have 1,000 true fans in any business, that should give you a solid income for life. So it's about building up that relationship with your community.
Cool. And that is, and the story is just giving a little bit of yourself.
Yeah, but make sure it's a non-fiction story. That's the biggest thing. We're not talking about making something up here. It's got to be a true story, but tell it as a story.
Yeah, just give it a little bit of a thread and a little bit of a build-up and things like that.
Yeah.
But and that's another thing and you say this a lot in everything that we do, which is always tell the truth. Find the story in things, by all means. Find the story in that. Again, you made the most of that letter that came, the nasty letter. you could take that. Well, you could take that a number of ways, and you found the story, the positive story, that you could turn to your advantage, and you made it into a message to send out to the list. But don't make this stuff up, right?
Yeah, no. That just, hopefully that goes without saying almost, because that should be the baseline which and the foundation which you live your life. But so from there, once we sort of had that part of the whole process established, I started trying to work on framing now and seeing the context and the framing and things like that. No, this is a big thing that we've spoken about in a lot of episodes. So I started to frame people's expectations on price. And what I wanted to do was frame them with a high price point. So when they actually saw the price that I was offering my products for, the frames for, they'd see it as an absolute bargain and great value. So I sent out a couple of emails and some videos to the list saying, hey, everything's coming along well, we're still on target for the launch date in a couple of weeks' time, and reinforcing that social proof that lots of people are actually opting in, and it's been great and the feedback's been awesome and all that sort of stuff. And did a video showing other memorabilia websites and the price points and the price that were for offer. So I literally, on screen, took my prospects to competitors' websites and spoke about our competitors' products. This is what this competitor has to sell. This is the pros on it. This is the cons on it, in my opinion. This is the price point. So they could see that, in the previous video I spoke about, just manufactured memorabilia with the signed photos. The video 2 days later went out was saying, look, this video shows you products that have been manufactured that are selling for $2,000. It's a signed cricket bat that's not even authentically used. It's just a cricket bat they manufactured and had someone sign, and they're charging $2,000 for it. Isn't that incredible? Oh my God. And really built up that frame that manufactured memorabilia is really expensive. So I tried to set that frame up very quickly. But then I also noted, but the authentic MCG carpet frames will be a lot less than half of that price. So I set them up really high, and then showed them how much value I'm going to offer, saying it's going to be, this is authentic and it's half the price. So I really wanted to set that frame up very strong. So I did that in a couple of different videos throughout the actual launch process. And I also tried to start kicking in that commitment and consistency and the social proof elements by actually taking some of the responses I had from emails I'd sent to the list previously and put them back into this email. So sort of saying, everything's going really well. Just had some wonderful emails. Here's a couple of awesome ones I've had so far, and actually cut some snippets out of other people's emails and pasted it in here just to reinforce and show some proof about the social proof, and show some testimonials and show that commitment and consistency element as well, which is really cool. And again, some of the stuff that comes out of the woodwork is just insane when you're doing these sort of launches, because just like that cease and desist letter, another awesome little nugget came out that I wasn't expecting, where one of the people who actually emailed me back throughout the sequence to my emails actually wrote to me telling me about they've got had a nephew or a son, I think it was from memory, who played a semi-professional or professional in a professional cricket league here in Australia, and he knew from a fact that when his son or any teammate is away on a signing day, other players just sign that person's name on the posters that go out on behalf of the club. Now, that wasn't me saying that. That was someone else who was a subscriber, part of this little inner circle, saying that. So it's just reinforcing stuff I'd already said in a way that I probably wouldn't be able to say myself directly. But this is a subscriber telling me that that's what happens in the space, which was incredible. So that was just another way to really reinforce the authenticity, the size of the community, and that amazing launch process that we were going through.
That's pretty cool.
That was very cool.
Can pick that stuff up. But it's all about looking for that, isn't it? It's all about looking for those opportunities and looking how you can take anything and fit it into this process. What seems like everyday occurrences, or even frightening things like the nasty letter from the MCG, and just see how you can fit it in within those parameters of building desire and social proof and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. That's it. You got to have that openness and be involved in the process and working out what can you take and how you can make a marketing angle out of everything. And from there, we're getting pretty close to obviously the launch date. So I built up this huge wave of obviously social proof and demand and framing and all that sort of stuff. And then I wanted to actually take them through the process to felt like they actually already own their piece of the MCG. Because in selling, what they talk about in the old sort of school selling, which is still applicable to a certain extent, is that you want to sort of get people to imagine and talk about the solution or the results they're going to have in the current context. So if you're going to clean their carpet, you want them to actually talk about what are they going to do with their clean carpet. Are they going to be able to have their kid crawling around on it again, or are they going to actually have a party or whatever it might be, and get them to actually envisage and feel like they've already got the solution you're going to be selling them, so they actually internalize that. So what I actually did, which is really cool, I actually took my little my flip video camera at the time to the framers who were actually making the frames and putting them together, and actually recorded one of the framers making up one of the pieces of memorabilia. For a couple of reasons. Obviously, to have that internalization, as I spoke about, also to show them the high quality of the product they were going to be investing in, and that piece of memorabilia would last for years because of the high workmanship that was going into each of the frames, and also just sort of have that cool inner circle over the shoulder kind of feel again throughout the launch process. They actually got to experience like they were going along this entire ride with me, which is part of that product launch process. So had that video, gave them access to the video where they could actually watch their frame being made, which is really, really cool. So I gave them that experience. That's what you're trying to do. You want to experience your product if you can beforehand.
Yeah, not wanting to pimp my specialist subject, as it were, but one of the things I think that was key to this, and key to a lot of what you do, is the use of video.
Absolutely.
Because as you said, when you did your little backstory, it wasn't just a printed letter or a web page with loads of text on it and the odd photo here and there. It was you in front of the place, the MCG, talking, being real, being on camera. And then again you went and this is important, especially if it's a physical product, but also even if it's not a physical product. But if it's a physical product, if you can actually pick it up, that experience, that internalization, the seeing the quality, those are things that it's very hard to talk about, but very easy to just pick this thing up. You went to the framers and they could see it's real wood. They could see people sawing through the wood. They could see the thickness of it. They could almost feel the weight. They could really engage with it. And video, it doesn't have to be high quality video, but video is very powerful for that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's that visual, they get that sort of experience it. Because think about it, most products people buy, they're probably seen on television. So they've had that experience by watching a TV commercial, watching an infomercial, and purchasing a product. So I was trying to redevelop that in the online sense, and that's why I went down the video path. It's a much more connected communication tool. And then from there, we pretty much just got ready for the launch. The last two sort of steps were pretty much just saying, here you go, give me your credit card and purchase your own piece of the MCG. So the second last email I sent out was simply an FAQ email and video where I basically answered all the questions that I'd been sent through the email responses I've had. So, when it's available, what's the money back guarantee terms, how can they buy it, can they buy it for their friends, and all that sort of stuff that I was being asked. That I not only replied to people individually, but I answered all the questions in a group scenario. So it was a bit of leverage for my time. Reinforce the social proof. Here's a question from blah, blah, blah. Here's a question from so-and-so. And obviously, if one person asks the question, there's a fair chance out of the whole community you've built, other people have obviously asked that question as well. So that was really, really important. And then finally, it was just a matter of actually saying, hey guys, shopping cart's open. It's available for pre-release before the general public. Check it out here. Go for it. Good luck. And I hope you get a piece of the MCG. And basically that was fundamentally the final launch sequence. And I did hit them with one additional follow-up email to remind them to take action, because the day that we actually opened up the shopping cart, I actually had a pretty big article in one of Melbourne's biggest newspapers as well. So I was able to sort of remail the list with another reason for mailing, and that reason was that, hey, the MX magazine, which is gets read by over 300,000 people, is running an article about this whole Own the MCG thing this afternoon. So if you want to get a piece of the frames and something before they go on sale to the general public, make sure you get one now, because with 300,000 people reading this, they're probably going to sell out pretty quickly. So that was a great excuse. And I think that's the biggest thing, is you need to have a reason. So you need to create a reason while you're mailing everybody. So you need to have a different hook and a different angle and a different influence factor every single time. So you've got a reason to actually mail and have that sequential process mailed. Because if I try to touch on all these elements in one video or in one long sales letter, I would have probably lost the prospect from day one. They would have come to the site after seeing a banner ad and tried to watch a 1 hour video or consume a 40-page sales letter to have all this desire build up, and it wouldn't be engaging. But by breaking it down into a sequence of 7 or 8 emails over a 2-week period, there was more engagement, more desire built, more interaction with the community.
Absolutely. And that was, again, you went through this process, and it was, again, a successful launch.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And more successful than if you just have, basically opened up the shopping cart on the website, and even probably more successful than if you'd opened the shopping cart on the website and used that banner traffic, that pay-per-click, to just drive people directly to the sale, right?
I would absolutely guarantee that's a fact. And I think I even tested at one point, and the launch sequence converted so much more, because it was an engaging process that the consumer got to go through and actually felt like they were part of the process, rather than sort of just being a very one-dimensional sales letter. And the thing that Jeff talks about in the, for want of a better term, the latest release of Product Launch Formula, which really I think it's a must invest in it for a lot of people. But what he talks about is how to make it go evergreen. And what he means by that is actually making your launch sequence available for your prospect to go through all the time. So rather than having to, as a launch for the very initial release of a product, how can you make that launch sequence evergreen? So when they come to your particular website and they want to find out more information, they get sent a similar sort of sequence of emails before they're even allowed to actually open their handbag or their purse or their wallet and give you money. They have to actually go through this sequence rather than seeing a static sales page and going away. And it's very, very cool, and it can work for a lot of different processes. This can be applied simply to your conversion process. So even if you're a B2B or a B2C salesperson, whether you're doing carpet cleaning or roof tiling or painting, you could sort of, compact this into a 3 or 4 process thing. Maybe you've got your initial welcome pack you give people when they inquire about you. Maybe there's a DVD that goes out with your quote. Maybe there's a follow-up email 2 days later. There might be some sort of sequence you can do to hit on all these hot buttons in a 3 or 4 day period as part of your normal conversion process. It doesn't have to be just a product launch of launching a brand new product. That's the biggest thing. It doesn't have to be about launching a brand new product. You could apply this to any business in any way if you sort of sit down, take the elements out, and make it evergreen.
Good tip. That's awesome, Matt. I mean, that's a really good step through of the product launch formula. Well, the idea behind product launches. I certainly have got a lot out of that, even though I've read through a lot of the stuff. You wrote some stuff about the MCG launch, and you were kind enough to let me have a look at that. But even with what you wrote down, and even though I've seen the site, it's great to understand where these things came from and how you turned it around and why you did each bit. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, what we might do, we might edit onto the end of this episode. I'll work out a way to make this available to people who are interested in actually getting, for want of a better term, a swipe file, which is what I think you're referring to. I actually put together a little PDF of all the emails that I sent out during this launch, and actually put together a video of like the best of. It's about an hour, but it was like cuts of all the different videos I actually sent out to the list as part of the launch and had it available. So what we'll do, we'll cut at the end of this episode in the edit afterwards a way to actually get a copy of this, and I'll make it available to everyone who's listening. So we'll work out how we can make that happen. I'll get Flo to put up a page, and we'll cut into the URL at the end of it. So if you're interested in getting a bit deeper into this, I know we've sort of gone for about 45 minutes, but if you want to sort of actually see what I spoke about in action, we'll make it available to people and they can check it out.
Yeah, that will be available at preneurmarketing.com/MCG swipe.
There you go.
That's preneurmarketing.com/MCG swipe.
We'll do a redirect to every make it live at the end of the day. I like it, Dom. Good idea.
But I do recommend you go through that. It's a great insight into a real world relaunch or launch, and it follows these steps and gives real examples. You can actually see the emails that Pete wrote and look at the videos and stuff. So that's great.
Any other questions we should talk about, Dom? What else? Any other product launch things you want to mention? Anything else we should speak about in general when it comes to PreneurCast?
No, I mean that was really good, and as you say, we've hit 45 minutes or so. The one thing I will say, and I've seen this, the moment that you realise that this concept exists, if you then stand back and look, you've probably been launched at, in inverted commas, quite a few times in your life. I experienced this maybe 4 years ago, before I really got involved in the industry, in the online marketing industry particularly. I'm heavily into the graphic arts and stuff, and I was involved a lot with Photoshop. And there was a guy produced a first of its kind product in the Photoshop world a while back, an add-on to Photoshop. And he basically went through this process. He had a list. He'd already been capturing people's email addresses because he'd sold the products and gave away freebies and just generally had a mailing list with tips and tricks on that subject. So when the day came that he wanted to put together this big ticket item, a few $100s he wanted for it, he mailed out the list and said, "Hey guys, I'm putting together this big ticket item. Anybody interested? Go here." Off we went, signed up, and we started getting the emails that were specific to the big ticket item. And some things that he did, he answered the questions as you did. Somebody asked him a question, he answered the question. It might be a technical question or an artistic question or whatever, but he used that as an excuse to mail the list with an answer to a question. He gave samples. Because it was an electronic product, he could give a sample, and that was probably one of the most engaging things he could do at the time. To give a sample, you could actually basically use a part of this product, it was 1% of the overall product. It was one particular thing out of 100 or so many. But you could use it and go, wow, all these things he's been talking about with the quality and the ease of use, I've actually used it. I completely know. I don't just believe what he said, I know it, because he gave me this thing and I had a go. And then he'd again, look, here's the packaging. I'm going to ship this to you as a physical bunch of DVDs, blah, blah, blah. Here, look at the DVD cases. And then, oh, here, look, in my warehouse, these are all the boxes ready for shipping, blah, 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 blah. But the one thing this guy did in this process, and I'm not saying good or bad, I am saying genius, but the guy built the desire and then went, I'm taking pre-orders. Just like Apple do I've done with the iPhone just recently, but he said, I'm taking pre-orders. And he gave an incentive, he gave some scarcity, because he said, if you pre-order, I'll give you this extra DVD with this extra stuff on it. He actually said secret DVD. He didn't even tell you what was on it. It could have been anything. He's secret DVD. Okay, fine. Pre-order. Okay. And I know for a fact the guy prepaid for the production bill for everything, not just the ones that were ordered, but all of the ones he'd planned to have manufactured and have in stock for people to buy it later. He prepaid the whole lot by having a pre-order. So this entire thing never really cost him anything to produce.
Beautiful cash flow positive.
Beautiful, amazing cash flow positive way to do it. By building the desire, by engaging the people, by demonstrating the quality, by doing all that stuff, he got everybody so whipped up into a frenzy that when he said, there's a bucket, put your money in it, bang, it was done. I mean, the guy sold out however many copies he sold. I can't remember couple of hundred copies or whatever it was. And it was literally, again, you mentioned it right at the beginning, people do these product launches on the internet with information products. Oh, I did $1 million in a day and all this. That's how they do it. They build the desire till these people are bursting to hand over the cash, and they just say, okay, it's here, here's the bucket, stick your money in. And if you then can use that in a cash flow positive way in a real world environment where you've got to manufacture the product or whatever, then all the better for it. But absolutely, having been on the receiving end, I can tell you these things work. And it's a great way, also, believe it or not, it's a great way to build customer loyalty as well. Because you've involved this customer on an almost personal level all the way through this journey. They feel they know you more, this is my opinion, but they feel they know you more. And they're probably, if your product's up to scratch, highly likely to buy from you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that URL that you magically created was
PreneurMarketing.com/MCG swipe. Go have a look at Pete's materials that he's done that basically talk through the MCG relaunch. An awesome case study.
So there's videos, and there'll be a PDF you can download as well, which is literally all the emails I wrote word from word, with a little bit of annotations of why I wrote what I wrote and stuff like that. So I'll make that available to everyone who's listening here too. So there's some good value there for everybody. So let's wrap it up in a nice little bow, as we always do, Dom, and we'll catch everyone next week for another instalment of PreneurCast.
You've been enjoying another fine episode of PreneurCast with Pete Williams and Dom Gocher. Make sure to hang out with the boys online at www.preneurmarketing.com or drop them a line via PreneurCast@preneurgroup.com.